Welcome back to the Grimm Workshop Trapping School. Today we're going to be learning an alternate way to set the L7 spring snares on the Zachary Fowler card. There's a lot of different variations on the L7 trigger depending on which signature card you're carrying. Today we're going to be using the Zachary Fowler version 1 card. Now in a previous video I went over the Jamie Burleigh card. So we've got Jamie Burleigh's L7s right here, Zachary Fowler's. So we've got two sets right here, and Wayne Russell has one as well. So here's Wayne. So they're very similar, and they're designed to be set component to component. So what do I mean by component to component? Let me pop them out of the card here and I'll show you. So these are just like all the Grimm cards. All these things pop off and then it goes right back on with the tool retention system when you're done practicing with them. So they're designed to be used in pairs. So I have 4 individual components, and those are going to join together to make 2 traps. So this is going to set exactly like the Jamie Burleigh L7. So if you are questioning what I'm doing, I've got a whole video on that. Just go ahead and check it out. So as I showed in the Jamie Burleigh video, this would be tied to a root or to a stake, and the top one's going to be attached to a spring engine. And then when that is disturbed, it's going to lift up in the air. That's going to be your least friction. That's going to be the easiest and the fastest way to set it. But you can only set 2 traps this way. The way I'm going to show you next, the second variation, is going to give you 4 traps instead of 2. So that's going to double your chances of getting game. And to get that done, you're just going to need a little bit of cordage. So this technique is going to be usable with the Zachary Fowler version 1, as well as the Wayne Russell and the Jamie Burleigh signature card. So you're going to need to slip a little bit of cordage through this hole. Now I've got 36 bank line. That's something I carry with me. So with this hole size, you're going to have to go with either inner strands of paracord, or if you've got bank line like I'm using today, you're going to have to just break this down. So you can untwist 1 strand of bank line, and then you're going to have to thread it through the hole. Now you can use it either side. 1 hole is centered, 1 hole is off-centered. I'm going to go through the bottom centered hole in this application. So once you've got your broke down cordage through your trigger, you're ready to select your spring engine. Now I went over in detail selecting your spring engine in the Jamie Burleigh L7 trigger. So it's going to be the exact same parameters. You're going to want to make sure that you've got a green stick that's not going to take set. You're going to want to make sure that it is sufficiently weighted for your target species. So if you are after a raccoon or a possum or something larger, then you're going to need a much larger spring engine, and the lift as well needs to be significantly higher in the air. So that's 2 factors that you're going to have to worry about. So I've got my spring engine all selected and I've got some cordage around it. I need to determine the height of this. So I see my game trail right here. So I'm going to take it down to approximately where my trail is going to be. And I do not want to take this past center. That's going to overstress our spring engine, and it's going to lead to breakage, or it's more likely to take set and fatigue. So I'm going to hold this spot with my thumb. I'm going to lift it up, relax the line, and then tie an overhand knot. So now I'm going to tie the trigger component onto my overhand knot on my spring pole. So here's the L7 trigger component on the Zachary Fowler card attached to our spring pole. So far this is exactly the way you would set it up in a traditional manner, using the top and bottom component. Now the variant here is I want to set more traps, so they're not going to be as efficient because it's going to be a little bit more bearing surface, but I'm going to double my chances and be able to set 4 traps instead of just 2. So to get that done, I've just got a little piece of bank line here, and I'm going to put a fixed loop in it. So I'm going to use a bowline. You can use any knot you're comfortable with. It just has to be a fixed loop. You're going to take this fixed loop. So again, this is not a slipping loop. And you can tie this around a tree root. In our case, I've got a stake coming up out of the bench. So you can drive a stake wherever you need your trap to set. And this essentially is going to turn into the bottom component of your L7 trigger. So to set this, I'm just going to pull down on my spring engine and slip the loop over the trigger component. Now I'm going to ease up on this, and it's good. So this tail here is where you would tie your snare, and then you would fix your snare the proper height off the ground on the animal trail. Now when the animal pulls the snare, once the animal trips that snare, it's going to be under tension, so it's unable just to simply turn its head and bite through your improvised cordage snare. So this is just one alternate way to set this, and it does double your chances, but it is less sensitive. You got to keep that in mind. There's no way that you can expect to have a steel trigger riding across cordage to be as sensitive as if it was riding steel on steel.